So we close the show off on a lighter yet poetic note as we go into the arts with two guests that we have on standby this morning. And we're going to be talking all things poetry, elevating poetry as an art, but also getting to know the work of Mo Africa, Wa Mohati, and what they do there at the Poetry Salon. This would be the 251 Poetry Salon there in Bramfontein. Vangile Kancho is a poet and a teaching artist, and this morning we are ending it on an artistic yet beautiful note. It's still a safe space. You at home, you're welcome to form part of the conversations this morning as we go into this one on 0861 987 000, and there by X we go by at Power FM 987 at Katlego Legodi _. Let's start with you, Mo Africa. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Katlego. How are you? I hope my voice is smooth because of during these hours is hotsy.
Totally understand. Don't worry. We won't judge you. We won't judge you.
This is the godly hour.
Most definitely. Most definitely. But I'm glad that you're able to join us this morning. Are you well?
No, I'm not well, but I'm here and
Oh.
I'm present. I'm excited to be speaking with you. Yeah, I'm heading to 50 hours of load shedding or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm really happy to be in this space with you.
Yeah, let's bring some light in your life, as we wrap up the show this morning in this way, speaking your language. I mean, we are in your space. We're in a poetic space, and this is your space. So we're hoping that we bring you a little bit of joy and a little bit of light as we wrap up the show this morning. But we also have Vangile, who's on standby this morning, joining us as well. Vangile, you're a poet and a teaching artist. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing, Vangile?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
No, it's always lovely to engage, connect, and glad that we're doing it together this morning. Let's start by understanding the work that you do there at Poetry Salon, Mo Africa. It's something that is exciting. And when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, I hope I'm really pronouncing it right. It's 251 because there's a dot and a dot in between. But let's talk about the Poetry Salon.
Sure. It is 251 Poetry Salon.
Ah.
So the 251 Poetry Salon musically is a musical chord. Before I can even go deeper, I just want to say hello to Vangile
Ah.
and apologies for making her probably, unsettled because of I'm using my other number and she probably tried to call me, but we are here. So yeah. So 251 Poetry Salon, musically, it's a musical chord. It's a chord progression. Those who know how to read and write music would understand. So in my other life, I used to be a saxophonist.
Ah.
So I guess, I'll have held that with me or have carried that with me also working within the poetry space. Sometimes I interchange the two. So coming up with the concept for 251 Poetry Salon, the music, took for. Somehow I'm very passionate about numerics. They hold a dear space in my heart. I don't know, but yeah. But for this particular salon, it sounds so fancy, salon. And my daughter the other day was saying, "How? But they're not doing hair here. It's poetry." Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's a fancy way of gathering, But
Yeah.
yes, so 251 Poetry Salon, I guess the definition is that, but the concept comes from part profiling, part conversation, and part performance. So during our conversation, we're having two books and 5 songs and a 1 performance set.
Ah.
So that's how I was trying to be smart. I'm smart.
What? Very, very smart. But I was a creative because as you're speaking, I'm like, oh man, like really, Africa is so creative here because all of these things, you actually just took everything and you put them in one in terms of what then speaks to what you want to put out there. The saxophonist part, the numbers part, you loving the numbers, but also now we see you breaking it down in terms of saying two books, five songs, or one performance, and I guess that's what wraps up the entire show, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, it really give us some navigation throughout the conversation. And what is also lovely is the audience can interject, having a conversation with our guests. So I like to say is having a conversation with an audience which can interject. It's quite a lovely setup to get to understand and humidify or humanify artists where you would usually see them on stage, dressed in their beautiful attires, and regalias. But during this conversation, you get to see them as human, also how they navigate their writings, also how they are influenced by society. That is not just performance. Some of them is social commentary, some of them it's a healing medium,
Yeah.
and so on.
Vangile, how do we find you in this space? Were you always that person that has been curious about the words, breaking them down? You would go into the dictionary and be so curious about how you would play with the word. Have you always been that person that would find in this space? And when people maybe right now and they bump into you and they haven't seen you in 20 years and you say to them that no, I'm a poet and I'm a teaching artist, do you get a sense that people don't really get surprised because this is who you've always been throughout your life?
Yes. I had a father who was very adamant about go to the dictionary, go look it up in the dictionary. So I researched from a young age, and then also he told me to write my stories down, put them in a book. And so I've been writing for as long as I can remember. And yes, truly, when people run into me from my childhood, they are not surprised that I am a poet or that I am in the arts in some way. I think what does surprise them maybe is that I'm also a spiritual healer and that I fuse the poetry and the writing into the spiritual practice that I am now embedded in. I truly, truly appreciate this space and the many spaces that Mu Africa creates, because there is a way in which she is always in search of showing or giving love to artists out loud. She's an artist. And I really, truly appreciate that. I have been watching the first season of the 251 Poetry Salon. And because I know her quite intimately, I was like, like,
Yeah.
uzandibiza nini mna?
Do best, please do best.
And I just felt like I see the people that she's calling, and I'm just like, why don't you think and visa, like, am I not worthy of the space? What's happening? But because she's the person that she is, she's very kind of strategic in how she thinks about the planning of things and the working out of things. So I am truly, truly thankful that we are here now, and it is because she sees it as part of a longer, larger conversation. So I'm thankful that I get to be a part of it.
Yes,
I just love, I just love how you just linked it all together in terms of the work, the work that Mo Africa is doing here. Because I was gonna go to say that, what then how do you guys, come together? What links you guys? But I see that, you explained it so nicely, Vangile, to say that you had to be nudge her to say, hey, listen, come on, let's do this. I see the train is moving. I want to be a part of this train. But you're a teaching artist as well. Are you intentional then about ensuring that you keep the art of poetry alive? And how do you see this space being received? Because, I mean, yeah, this is a creative space, and one would say once an artist, always an artist. Over the years, how are you seeing this space just playing itself out within the society and the teaching aspect of it? Is it you just basically saying that we need to ensure that we keep the art of poetry alive?
Yes, I am a teaching artist. And I think that I think of teaching artist in a way that breaks down the two words. So I'm an artist first and foremost, and I am very cognizant of the power of the arts and what the arts can do for yourself and for your community. And then I am teaching in that so it is embedded in me that there is an imparting of knowledge or an imparting of knowing or an imparting of access to knowing that I am in constant search of and in constant community of. And so I think of the arts and the poetry space as an opportunity or a doorway for constant knowing, learning, teaching. And so I think of how do we use our voice to know more about ourselves and to grow into the communities we come from. So I do teach in university settings, albeit with a rebellious intent. And I do also teach by running kind of writing circles where people are able to find their own voices and see how their voices land in a community setting. I feel very deeply about the power of our own stories. Yeah.
Oh, that is so powerful. And let me bring you in then, Africa. I mean, literally, you are just a true definition of from Mamelodi to the world. Looking at how you've really moved into these countries, moved into these spaces, and even now you're here at home, still pushing and keeping this fire alive. Let's talk about the art of poetry and what you've observed over the years in terms of this space and the importance of this space and keeping this art alive, looking at how you've traveled the world and still we find you here in this space. Mo Africa. Okay, Mo Africa, we're trying to connect with Mo Africa, but let me bring you in, Vangile, as well, to say that really when you look at how this space has moved and evolved over time, do you see the keen interest? Do you see the people still meeting? Do you feel that, the poetry has evolved over time, or there's still a lot of work to be done? I mean, I'm saying this because you hear a lot of people saying that now we're living in a digital space. They would prefer to be on their gadgets than to go buy an actual book. And you even look, when you look at it, you often hear people saying, oh, print is dying, print is dying. And one then wonders as we see all of these developments playing themselves out and the evolution as well of this space, do you get a sense that, more or less we've moved, or there's still a lot to be done in keeping this space alive?
Well, so I think that, first of all, I really want to commend the work that Umo Africa does. Constantly. I think that there is much to be said about the fact that we can't get hold of her right now in the country that we live in. The fact that there is a electricity in different neighborhoods and how that is distributed, how that is sanctioned, what happens to the communities of people that we live with. And I think that that's something that we need to always be cognizant of, that our government is failing our people in many ways, and that they need to be held accountable for that. That being said, I think that I am deeply honored to continue to partner with a woman like Umo Africa, who thinks of the ways in which the arts can bring communities alive, because the arts is how we actualize ourselves. We bring ourselves into out loudness. And so the ways in which she always thinks of how to blend jazz and poetry together, which is something that our former poet laureate, Prof. Khosetsile, used to always talk about, that poetry and jazz are two sides of the same coin, and how they should not be seen as things that are separate. And I think that Umo Africa really embodies that legacy. That being said, I think that there is a way in which poetry and the arts and writing and community has been allocated to an elitist status that doesn't take into consideration the fact that poetry has always been embedded in our lives. So there's City Imbonge and which means that the poet is not stopped or told to halt, because the poet has a divine right, authority to speak to power. There is a way in which the poet is known to be able to have the capacity to move society. If we think about, I grew up in a family where my uncle was obsessed with Umzwakhe Mbuli during the apartheid struggle, where to the point where he used to quote Umzwakhe Mbuli constantly, and that's one of my entry points into poetry. And then you think about the ways in which poets are always banned, constantly told to keep quiet, and then also mobilized, like as in used to send a particular message. So I think that society, government, people are fully cognizant of the power of poetry and choose to wield it how they wish.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I'm glad we have you back, Mo Africa. I was asking, and I was literally saying that you are the prime example of from Mamelodi to the world, looking at how you've traveled. I'm seeing that you've been in Sweden, you've moved, literally in Washington. You were there. You're one person that is globe trotted, and I wanted to get your experience in terms of how you've experienced the evolution of poetry, moving into these spaces and bring it back home, where the salon is concerned. You get a sense that there is more than ever a buy-in, or there's still a lot of work to be done, looking at keeping the art of poetry alive.
Yeah, banyana ba Mamelodi a ba rate di-social fela bathong.
Well,
We also travel the world and hold
yes.
space. um, yeah, so poetry is very important in our culture, and I think for me, you know, I poetry is from the reciting of family names when there are gatherings, and keeping hold of the family lineage, and that is my departure with poetry. And I understand the importance of poetry, but it is also prayer. Also, that reciting of the names is prayer. And in modern day, it has become a voice, a social voice, an activist, a flagging voice. Uh, so it is very, very, very important for society to never forget to pray, and that is poetry uh, for me. And I carry it in all the spaces I go. You speaking of these countries that I have visited, um, I bring my culture and I recite my names in Sepedi, in the heart of Stockholm, and that is where I believe that also prayers are needed. And when someone prays upon you, and even if it's in a language that you don't understand, but you feel it, you receive it. And poetry is that, for me, and I am intentional about it. And it is a healing medium for many, and to be collaborating with the likes of Vangile Kanchu, who really see the importance of poetry. It's very humbling. It's very reassuring that we are on the right path in a country where a very scary, alarming number of young children who can read without comprehension, without meaning, whereas we do have these prayers as these poems as prayers, and they cannot even understand it.
Yeah.
It must scare our government that there's something really wrong. Growing up, I used to like how black intellectuals, so they would love this, being so intelligent. Yeah, what I was thinking, I'm so intelligent, I can
I
even,
can take it there.
and they pride themselves, in their mother language, but also they pride themselves in this English,
Yeah.
that it cannot, they are not putting English on a haven, Ngungu wa Tiongo, English haven. No, but then we are here, that also in our mother tongue we can still be able to share this wisdom, to share this poetry. So yeah, it's very important that maybe poetry as a medium might be our way out of learners not reading without meaning.
Love it, love it, love it. We're out of time. Yeah, time really flies. I really would like to. I wanted for one of you guys to do something for us, but please just direct us to where we can get your work, and just let us in then as well, Africa, as to the poetry salon. Can people just walk through? When do we sit and everything else in between, so we can direct people there?
They can go to the Forge social media platforms and also the 251 Poetry Salon social media platforms. There's a link there to be able to RSVP. It will be best to RSVP so that we don't overbook the space. It's quite a limited space, about 200 people, and we always fill it up to the brim. So, yeah, I would advise people to really book. But, yeah, Vangi, are you ready to give us something? And but I'm also happy to share a prayer.
Yes, thank you, Mo. So to RSVP, you can send an email to rsvp at theforge.co.za.
Guys, really appreciate you coming through and giving us your time. And in terms of your work, we do get them in stores and online.
Sorry, yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And on social media, who are you guys? Vangile, let's start with you, and then as we say our goodbyes.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Vangile. I was asking as to on social media, how do we follow your work? And also, as we say our goodbyes to you.
Yes, so you can follow me at Vangi22 on all social media platforms. I'm not really active on X because of the loophole that Elon Musk is, but also because I love my country. And I am also on Facebook as Vangile Gancho. I would definitely like to say just one thing, which is 30 seconds of poetry, but more a divine kind of breath into ourselves in this time where so much feels like it is on fire. There is power in your voice. Even when you choose silence, there is strength in you standing. Even when you break publicly, there is life in your breath. You are fire, blazing embers, wild fields, burning winter's pain, preparing for springtime. You truly, truly are absolutely everything.
Vangile, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Appreciated. Vangile Gancho coming through. Mo Africa, who are you on social media? How do you follow your work as well? We're out of time. I would have loved for you to also give us something, but we have to go. How do we follow your work?
Mo Africa or Mokati on all social media platforms.
Mo Africa. Thank you very much for coming through.